achieving strategical goals with build-up of emotions, it's well known. And what happened in your podcast is exactly this, using things out of reality, out of context, to reach emotional shock. And for sure, the statement flying over dead bodies, come on. This is alarming enough, how it is put forward, because this is not describing the event at all. It's indecent. It's not about the content. It's about what is the target of that discussion.
CIVL released the whole history of our Flightmaster relationship. And since they were purchased in 2018, we've spent zero money on Flightmaster.
On the question of proxies, the same people complaining are massively using proxies in the World Cup structure. The same people are running across the board and collecting proxies. We had more proxy votes this year than actual members being present.
And really, the solution is to bring more money into the sport. And like Goran was saying, if we want to really up-level it, we're going to have to hire employees and have equipment to do these broadcasts, et cetera, et cetera. And so we can do some things to make the sport more accessible to a wider audience and maybe attract some sponsors. In one podcast, it was said that it's a shame flying over dead pilots and CIVL has no humanity. That was in reference to the PWC. And you and I have talked about the facts there, and the facts are that that's just not at all what was happening. So I was actually in that competition, one of the competitors, and it's fairly offensive. I know the comment didn't originally come from you, but unfortunately it was said on your podcast. So I just wanted to see if you had anything to say about that comment.
No, I mean, indeed, it was shocking just to hear that as an audience. And a lot of people who follow this show also expressed their opinion on various comment sections across various platforms. So, but I just want to get things straight. Is the event as it has been told, or is there some variation to the version that has been told here a few weeks ago?
Yeah. So what happened was a pilot had a crash, and it was obvious that it was a bad crash, but nobody knows exactly what the status of the pilot is until somebody gets to him. And it was much later in the day before a helicopter crew could even get to him. So the organizers, and this was a PWC event, the organizers had a decision to make. They knew they had a helicopter coming in, and if they had all the pilots immediately land, then they would be trying to land in the exact area where the helicopter was coming in. Or they could just let the race go on. The start was minutes away, and as soon as the start time hit, people would fly away from the area.
Uh-huh.
So they made the decision to just fly away from the area, and the race went on. Of course, later, after everybody had landed, we found out that the pilot had died. And then next day, we took the day off, had a day off in memory of the pilot. So it's just a gross misrepresentation to say that all of the pilots have no humanity. And I don't even know why he said CIVL has no humanity, but it's a misrepresentation. And it's a disgrace to say that the pilots who were flying that day were knowingly flying over a dead pilot and didn't care. That's just, it's deeply offensive.
Yeah, no, I understand your sentiment, Bill, and I think I would like to thank you for clarifying, because the notion that had been set in people's minds so far was that probably the event had happened before the onset of the task, and it was a collective decision to continue with the task regardless of the gravity of the event.
Yeah.
I would like to elaborate on this a little bit, because I was in the middle of that operation. Building up of or achieving strategical goals with build up of emotions, it's well-known tactics. And what happened in your podcast is exactly this, using the things out of reality, out of context, to reach emotional shock. And for sure, the statement flying over dead bodies, I mean, come on. This is alarming enough, how it is put forward, because this is, first of all, not describing the event at all. Nobody flew over him permanently. It was passed by because it happened just close to the takeoff in Castello, just maybe 200-300 meters to the left of the takeoff on the first rocks, and maybe a kilometer or more. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It was the entering of the speed section. So in the moment when we have reports from the air that was a violent collapse and hitting the rock, and the pilot, of course, went down. It's a very steep terrain, and it's dense, very dense woods in the foothill. So the organization, they reacted immediately. We received not one, we received 2 helicopters on site. The people tried to put a rope down, maybe 200 meters long rope, which is extremely risky due to the pendulum. And everybody literally did their best. People involved reporting from the air. I'm not that kind of guy now to say names and to make another trouble for anyone, but a very reputable and serious people. So now, after all these years, somebody to put this out of context is indecent. It's indecent. It's not about the content. It's about the what is the target of the discussion. What is the real target, and what we would like to explain now is that everything is wrong in that discussion. From my perspective, things like this are happening all the time.
I understand. Yeah. The context.
In these few months, we have so many things out of context and so many, really, really build up of emotions. There are no multiple sides of reality. In reality is only one. And then what you do with the facts and how you present them are the sides and the options. In this case, pilots in the air, organization, World Cup organization, me personally, whoever was involved, everybody was very, very aware what we are doing. It was coordinated. We let the pilots go away because we needed the place clean. We didn't want to have anyone landing there, anyone hanging around. We want them to go away. And that was a tactical decision. So it's not just happened. We decided to do this collectively in order to clear the space as fast as possible, downwind, and then disappear the equation in minutes. And we have helicopters with a clear path to come as fast as possible.
So just to get the context, breakdown in chronological order for the audiences, the task started, then this incident happened, and as soon as that happened, then the waypoint was set. Like, was there a change of course middle of the task, or if you can just tell the sequence of events, how that worked?
Nothing of that. It was a properly set task with a start of speed section in close to the takeoff. This incident happened on the way to the beginning of the task, on the way from the takeoff, flying to the beginning, to the start of speed section, on the way there. So there were many pilots in front already. There were some pilots still on the takeoff. You have an incident, you have reports, you don't know nothing. You don't know, is he injured? Is he alive? Is he,
I understand,
in this case, unfortunately, dead? So you work with what you have. This is a standard procedure, and I can guarantee to everyone that these events were done by the rules, by the book, in the standard practice that we are doing.
Okay. First of all, thank you for putting it out so clearly. I think the most important thing that you said out there was the facts and the way they are being presented, and your current narration of the things. First of all, is transparent. I would say, you've said it out loud in front of everyone, and secondly, a first-hand experience wherein you were the part of the crew which was seeing all the action. So if we look at the broader picture, I think that statement does not make sense, because the way it was put was made to believe that this event happened earlier and the competition went on without any further consequences. But Bill, I hope that clarifies the stance and the option to clear it in front of the audiences as well, and not just to me.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. And so another one was, and I can't remember who said this, but CIVL made centralization of power and are making secret deals behind closed doors. So in social media, there's been lots of accusations of secret deals, and so it sounds very exciting. I would love to know what these secret deals are. Are you aware of what these secret deals are?
No.
Did anybody elaborate?
No, I'm aware of the base camp group, so thank you for giving me a chance to be a part of that, which seems very transparent with all the talks that is going on in there. I think more or less the secret deals the most recent one has come up in the form of pilots union. So I think what basically that context must have been said in a manner that there was a disconnect between the interaction between pilots and civil, and how the flow of information goes between the bodies. So I think that was the point that was being elaborated in that context.
I think one of the accusations that's been leveled at CIVL is related to Flymaster. We have somebody in the bureau who works for Flymaster. He was just reelected 6 months ago, so everyone knows who he is, and his potential conflict of interest was disclosed. But I don't know if you've seen it, but CIVL released the whole history of our Flymaster relationship, and it's the trackers were bought in 2018 before he was even involved with CIVL. He became a delegate in 2023 for the first time, and since they were purchased in 2018, we've spent zero money on Flymaster. Flymaster has only gotten data charges from us. They haven't charged us anything. They haven't charged us for any of the work that Cristiano and they have done for building out the whole infrastructure. We have this whole infrastructure for pilot tracking and retrieve management, and it's fantastic. It's state of the art. It's what's inspired some other companies now to be doing their own systems, which is great. It's the whole thing has spawned some competition, which is fantastic.
If you'd allow me to elaborate on that, I think the most recent development in that story was that Volandu was saying that the access to API keys or something, I'm not a developer by any means, wasn't available, and that's why they weren't given a fair chance to bid, or even after having a superior live tracking. So I think the conflict of interest part, which is being spoken in the whole civil design movement, is pointing on that.
But there hasn't been another bid, so that's what I'm saying. We haven't bought any new trackers. So what we did was, this was like earlier in the year when we were thinking about buying a new set of trackers. I talked to FAI and I said, "Hey, look, we need to make sure that we do this in a transparent way. Can you provide FAI headquarters? Can you provide somebody to oversee this process for us? We'll do an open bid. We'll make everybody." On the same level playing field. Obviously, Cristiano will be able to bid as a manufacturer, but he can't be involved in the process of evaluating. He fully is on board with that. And there hasn't been another bid. We haven't decided whether we're going to even buy a new set of trackers yet. Right now, the plan is just to rent trackers temporarily until we figure out financially whether it makes sense long term to buy another set or be more flexible and just rent from year to year, because like 1 year, maybe we want to rent Volando, and the next year we want to rent Digifly, and the next year we might want to rent, whoever. So, there hasn't even been an opportunity for us to have had some kind of ethical problem because there hasn't been a purchase. So, my meta comment is that it's disappointing that people are just assuming that anytime somebody says, "Oh, there's secret deals being made," or there's no transparency or whatever, that people just assume the worst. And look, we're just volunteers. We're doing our best. There's no secret deals going on. I put you in all the base camp groups. You can see everything that's being discussed, everything that's going on. It's totally democratic. So, like the next comment that I was going to bring up is somebody said, CIVL has a dictatorship ideology. So I don't even know where that comes from. Like, in what way is CIVL a dictatorship? I mean, it's frustratingly slow to get anything through the process because the only people who can make decisions ultimately are the delegates, right? So anything that we want to do, we have to get the delegates to vote for it. There's almost nothing that the CIVL Bureau can actually do on its own without getting the delegates behind it. So I just don't even know where that comment even comes from.
Goran, I'm going to come back to you for the comment that you wanted to make, but I think just to clarify the point here, what it might have pointed at was the voting strategy and the meaning of the policy of proxy voting and the rules around it, which don't allow you to carry the vote of more than one delegate, and then the ones who are not physically present can only offset it to so many and the ones who are inside the bureau also have voting rights, so which are mostly pre-decided in an election because of their nature of work. So I think that is what it meant. But Goran, I'm sorry we missed your point back then. But would you like to?
Yeah. I would like it's developing well. I would like
just
to
one
build up.
clarification.
Yeah.
Just one clarification on that, though. It's not true that the bureau has voting rights. Only the delegates within the bureau have voting rights. So, for example, I'm not a delegate. The president can't be a delegate. I was a delegate, but I gave that up to become president, and so I don't get a vote. And there's one other person in the bureau who isn't a delegate, the treasurer, and he doesn't get to vote. So the voting rights of the bureau are only whatever rights the delegates bring as individuals. So that's what that is.
On the voting issue, I think it's very important to understand that the structure of FAI is based on national clubs. So this relation, when pilots now are jumping over the structure, I understand it's easy to understand, and perhaps for the better future, maybe we should do it. But it's not this bureau, it's not CIVL, it's the FAA structure. Every single commission is working in the same principle. So when somebody is saying bureau members voting or not voting, they're forgetting you cannot be on the bureau if you are not a delegate, which means if I'm not delegate of North Macedonia, I could not be on the bureau. So in that moment, my country, my national club, delegate the power of voting to me, like to everybody else. So now there is only one way: or delegates will not be bureau members anymore, and then let's see who will be those people. Or the other way is to understand that when bureau member is voting, it's voting for the nation. The national club gave this vote to him. On the question of proxies, so now this became a big deal. For example, the same people are massively, the same people complaining are massively using proxies in the World Cup structure, because in the General Assembly, every single member has two proxies, not one, two. In every single General Assembly, the same people are running across the board and collecting proxies. It happened this year. We had more proxy votes this year than actual members being present.
Okay.
And it's a tool. It's the lobbying and the proxies and everything. It's a tool. So now, if we are really against the proxies as a concept, it has to go across all the organizations, because we cannot have multiple systems. So now we are using one or another. Democracy works around the common principles.
Yeah. No, but in that case, does online voting structures or the solutions that are being offered, because I think that was also discussed in one of the changes that was proposed in the pilots union. I can't recall on the back of my head from proxies, but all I'm saying is that does the voting structure need to be restructured, or do you think that it's working fine and these let's say demands to say the least are not really legible?
Yeah, what really needs to happen, and unfortunately it's just a financial concern, the ideal thing would be just more delegates come to the plenary. And I understand the reasons why some of them can't, but that would be the best solution, because I talked to so I just got back a couple of weeks ago from the FAI General Conference, and all of the air sport commissions are dealing with the same issues, and a couple of them have tried online voting, and it just turned out to be a disaster, because they lose all of the in-person dialogue where really some of the best discussions happen, in the working sessions before the plenary and in the halls and when they go to lunch. And there's just no replacement for the face-to-face, person-to-person conversations. Hey, you said this, did I understand you correctly? And so we don't want to lose that. And if we went to pure online voting, probably nobody would even come to the plenary. So it's a difficult problem. Ideally, we would just find a way to have more delegates able to come to the plenary. That's the best solution.
Yes, and just to add, please, just a few sentences. With the insisting on online voting is basically unneeded because the concept of voting is also a proposal. A delegate can propose something. It could be voted, and it will be within the rules, and there is no more drama. So now we are operating by the rules and by the structure that is in place. Yeah. So the pressure to change. Why we would like to change? You know why? Because this is opening another Pandora box. The people that are not well informed, the people that are not interested, maybe, they will be contacted. Absolutely, this is going. While we are speaking, it's going all over in the background. So now it's in a way solving one problem. We have a new problem, a big lobbying and pressure behind the closed doors. The idea of bringing people to the plenary, the idea to bring people to live meetings. Every single company is trying to have live meetings, and then as a second best option is something else. Because in a case of a plenary, when we have everyone face to face, we can elaborate, we can explain, you can have a fluid discussion, you can make your point. It's not someone who is watching Netflix in the same time from a country that has zero motivation in order to be a friend to someone, or in order to be manipulated. And then what we have, maybe in this moment is looking like a useful tool for a certain group of people to achieve certain goals. But think big, think for 10 years, think for 20 years. If you open this, everybody can do the same. Everybody can manipulate. That's why the correct way, if possible, of course, and if legal, if it's voted, if it's in the rules, is to bring people in the favorable place when they can come, when it's not too expensive, when we can provide an arena for democratic process and for direct communication. Only like this we will have a solid decision making.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah.
Well said, Goran.
One other thing that people sometimes forget is, the ideal way that proposals happen is through a committee. So, like, for example, if the Paragliding Cross Country Committee submits a proposal, they've already all agreed on it, and so the likelihood that those proposals get voted down is very low. It's rare that those proposals get voted down. The ones so for example, if you're a remote person who can't come to the to the plenary, but you have an idea, you can get your idea. If your idea is good, you can get your idea put forward through the committee, and then have that approved. And if there's a proposal that you don't like, you can make your case online for the many months before the plenary, and try to convince everybody that the proposal's bad and they shouldn't have it be a committee approved proposal. The difficulty comes when proposals are made last minute, and unfortunately, there's too much of that happens. So, like the days before the plenary, you get people together and they start talking, and they're like, "We just realized that we need to change this particular thing in the proposal." The people who are online would not have had any of those conversations or heard any of those conversations. So it's impossible for them to even know what they would be voting on, because they haven't had a chance, to read the updates and stuff. So we're trying to, or we are pushing back the deadlines for proposal submissions. So this year, for example, all of the proposals have to be in by January 1st. And then once they're there, we're going to send out polls to all the pilots to get pilot feedback. So pilots will be able to say whether they like the proposal or not, and if they don't like them, why they don't like them. And then all of that feedback goes back to whatever committee or NAC proposed it. And then they have about a month to revise the proposal based on the pilot feedback. And then the final proposal is due about a month before the plenary. So we're already giving more opportunity for people who aren't normally part of the process or can't be part of the process to make sure their input is heard. So that's a good change we're making this year.
Yeah, and I think along with that, you also put out a press release which said that you're encouraging pilot involvement in the Civil Bureau. Is that also being taken in line with the same steps? And is
Yeah.
Is PWCA also on the same lines? Are you guys going to follow the suit, or do you feel the same need for similar directions?
Well, let me talk about civil first. I mean, this has always been the case about civil, but we probably haven't done a good job at letting pilots know that they can join a working group. So the way the structure works for civil, like Goran said, this is true for all the air sports, is you've got the delegates, and the delegates are the representatives of their countries. And so some delegates do a really good job of like staying in touch with their pilots and gathering feedback and letting them know what's going on. And others less so. They don't have time. They're busy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So realizing that, we're now just reaching out directly to pilots. But we've always had pilots in the committees and in the working groups. In fact, the majority of the people in the committees and working groups are just pilots who aren't delegates. But anyway, we thought it was good just to remind everybody that we want you to participate, and if you have the time and the expertise to join us. I think we've gotten, I can't remember the exact numbers, but like almost 100 new people have joined various committees after that. So that's great.
In the case of the World Cup, it's a much simpler relation because, first of all, the entire operation between the World Cup and CIVL is very different due to the intensity. World Cup has intensive program. We have 5 World Cups, Super Final, 20 pre-World Cups, and majority of people are in constant contact. So the democracy in the kind of organization when every single pilot has a direct link, direct face-to-face opportunity multiple times per year to express, I'm on every single event, and majority of people are together. So there is exchange all the time. The problem in the World Cup is the formality of the proposals or the follow-up, because, if you're following now what's happening, there are many great ideas, but not all of them are widely supported. You have, again, lobby groups that are supporting it, and those groups are getting overexcited or disappointed because their proposal is not going forward. Equalizers are one of the best examples. Everybody will understand that how divided is the field. So pilot feedback, or the famous sentence "pilots for pilots" in the World Cup, should not be questioned. Because, for example, in the General Assembly, you do not have delegates; you have individual pilots. Mm-hmm. And they have a right to vote. There is secret vote. There is a show of hands. You have all the democratic principles how that could be done. And collecting feedback, it's very easy. And now, after sending our latest communication, we receive certain feedback. But I can make it this public, and it will be public because we have Laura our secretary is collecting all this data. It could be published because and there is no such a drama, like we are experiencing in this moment, because creative people that really would like to push things forward, they have very precise, workable, feasible, financially supported proposals, and that is important. Everybody knows to propose something, and I'm always asking, okay, but to propose something means a lot of things. Yeah. In the World Cup, it's a very direct connection. I think it could not be questioned. It could be manipulated for sure, but it could not be questioned. In CIVL, due to the delegate system, and it's very important to add to what Bill said, if certain country has unfunctional system, for example, I don't know, in Macedonia, due to low financement from the government for the national club, we have barely working national club. We have a structure, but it's barely working. So if we have some poor situation in Macedonia, so now due to poorly operational work of the national club, there is no delegate, or he's not motivated, or he's not going to the meetings. How CIVL or FAI can bridge this? Because the problem is, it's imagined that certain people are motivated to be part of the system. When they're not motivated, the pilots of that country are victims. That's for a fact. We have the situation in Mexico. We have now this situation in Japan. We have the same situation in Turkey. So it's not endemic. It's spread around the globe. So now we cannot be blamed for unfunctional systems in members. That's why World Cup is different, because these members are pilots themselves. But it's very important to understand how that works.
Yeah. And, I'd like to bring our attention to this one statement that has been raised as a concern over the past few days since this incident of Bram, which actually started all of these discussions. And some people have been very vocal about expressing that racing somehow tend to lean more towards speed than technicalities. And what I'm wondering is that these, the voting complications, the proxies, the structures, the way the administration works, and the loopholes around it. Do you guys think somehow that has influenced the leaning of the structure, or is it even a real thing, or just a myth, or no?
Well, let me take a cut at this first, and Goran probably can even talk more elaborately than me on this, but I'll tell you what's been happening in the civil working groups. So there's an ongoing discussion about do we need to take speed out of the equation, or some speed out of the equation? Do we need to lower the speed? Do we need to lower the speed on final glide? Do we need to lower the speed overall? Do we need to have a wing design that's a little bit different and safer on speed? And there's no clear answers. But what is true is that the majority of the voices from the delegates and in the committees are top pilots. So the entire sport, rightly or wrongly, is kind of oriented now towards what the top pilots want. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just the way it is, right? So that's why we launched the sport class poll, and we're about to post that up on the web. I mean, we had over 2,500 responses, really good, amazing response rate, and it's amazing engagement. I've never seen a survey with that level of engagement. Yeah. And it's clear that there's a lot of pilots out there that don't want to be flying CCC wings. They want to be flying something that's a little bit safer, a little bit slower, a little bit easier to handle. These are pilots that aren't professional pilots. They're just people with day jobs, and they want to go out and have fun. They want to race. They want to be competitive. They want to challenge themselves, but they're more cross-country pilots than they are race pilots, is one way to think about it. So I think that will take, if that moves forward, assuming it moves forward, I think a growing sport class community will take some of the pressure off, because the problem right now is you have some pilots who love flying at full speed all day, just mashing the bar
on triple
just
C,
going as fast
or on C.
Yeah, on a CCC glider, mashing the bar, flying through turbulence. I mean, and they're good at it. They practice more than the average pilot can practice, and they're masters at it. And those are the guys that you see, and some women, those are the people that you see at the top of the WPRS. And that's great. So that's one kind of racing. But not everybody is going to be able to do that as safely as we would like them to.
The point that was being trying to made was that, is speed the correct way of gauging human performance in our sport, or should tactic be weighed up on as well? That is a dilemma. Yeah. And maybe Goran wanted to comment.
Yes. If you do not mind, Bill, I can take a little bit. The original question was, and I think we should go to the original one, because you connected with the Brahms incident. And, first of all, I would like to publicly say, and this is an opportunity, that what happened to Bram and all this is a chain of events that are for sure deserve deep analysis. How and why and what happened. Some of those are protocol. Some of those are like changing of the goal field, for example. These kind of things are not related to the game itself. This is not related to the speed or to task committees. This is different. This is a technicality but I really wanted to say this, that the goal field was changed on the request of the team leader. This is not something that we invented, CIVL or local organizers. We have a meeting. It started the previous day. There was slight pressure that with this setup of the goals, we will not be able to fly next day. And this is the fatal in paragliding, modern paragliding, which is let's try. And that's how we have many level 3 days. That's how we have incidents, because this let's trying is improvising, and that is leading to problems. So under pressure of let's fly next day, local organizers went to find a new goal, and the chain of events started to develop. So and this is something that nobody's taking into account. So what is the idea? That the CIVL jury or whoever or somebody just woke up in the morning and said, okay, let's change the goal. I mean, if you're a professional pilot or serious enough, you must ask yourself, how did it happen? So now the outcome is disaster, total disaster. I'm really deeply sorry for what happened, because for sure there are ways to avoid it. But unfortunately, the frequency of those events is showing also one other thing, that despite you are doing a lot of things, we have this frequency coming back and back and back and back again. In the Kriegel-Maurer's interview, that was pictured word to word. It's going in waves. Ultra high development of the equipment, and then pilots trying to catch up, you have incidents. Then when the equipment is stable, then ultra development of pilots pushing everything to the limits. And then again, you have accidents. And in meantime of these periods, you have more quiet period. And this is the real problem. the most important thing to be understood about speed racing, everything is we didn't come here due to the set of rules. We came here with evolution. Evolution. It was year after year after year after year. How it is working? It is working that World Cup is leading usually the rules or the concepts or leading points, concept of start, that doesn't matter. So, and then it's tested. It's tested 5 times per year, 6 times per year, pre-World Cups. Tested in the real world, and obviously nobody's complaining. So the system is developing into one direction: more leading points, more leading points, more leading points. As pilots are willing to say, the game of controlling, the game of controlling. So it's developing, it's developing, it's developing. The people complaining now or being so vocal, they are all part of this process. There is always this famous sentence: listen to the designers. Every major company was or is World Cup partner, which means every major company's designer have a say every single day. And after 30, 35 years of the World Cup, we have what we have now. Nobody imposed to anyone, I don't know. I mean, for sure you can challenge my words.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On the end, there is some moderation, but do we, we did not have an avalanche of complaints.
Yeah, to answer your question directly, I mean, there are definitely people who feel like we've lost the XC part of XC racing. We have now a race for sure. It's almost a drag race. The way you win now is you fly in a gaggle. You have to stay on optimum course line, because if you're not on optimum course line, you're not getting leading points. And for sure there's tactics, but the tactics are related to, how do I maximize my leading points? Because when everybody, when not everybody, but when the majority of the field all comes in together in a big clump, which is what happens now, the winner is determined by who had the most leading points, because everyone's time points will be within 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds of each other. So it's an interesting sport right now, but like some people are saying, hey, what about the cross country aspect? What about trying a different route? And we have lost a little bit of that, but
I love the way Goran put it, before this, where he explained how the evolution has led us in this direction rather than, being pushed around by anyone. But what I want to point out here is, and maybe any one of you can elaborate on this, is in my episode with Bill Belkwood, the previous one, he mentioned when open class was going away, he had a one-man protest where he declined to fly because he said that it would slow down or kill the evolution of the sport. And he said that at time it felt like a disservice to people. I think he mentioned the name of Josh Cohn. I don't know how accomplished of a pilot he was, but he said that there were people out there who were able to keep their wings open and explore the technology to its limits and still call it a day. So there were humans who had caught up and who were refining, let's say, the evolution part, but suddenly it was just taken away from them. So if today a two-liner C class is kind of encouraged more, aren't we doing a disservice to the upcoming Josh Cohns of tomorrow, where they will be accessing a harnessed technology and not the one which could have been exploited to its limit, because one minority is louder and one majority is not that loud in this case.
Well, what we're trying to do with the C class, or what we are doing with the C class, is, so there's two things to know. So sport class competitions are already happening. So we're not introducing something new. There's a sport class racing series that is, I think, doubling in size next year because of demand. Various countries have sport class the U.S. has one. Brazil has a new series. So lots of sport class competitions are already happening, and wing manufacturers are already producing higher performing sport class wings. So the toothpaste is out of the tube on that one. So we're not creating something new. What we're doing with sport class is we're trying to put limits on what can be considered a sport class wing before it gets too out of control, because definitely there's a concern that manufacturers could make wings that could pass ENC certification that would be far too demanding for people to handle. And so we want to prevent that. So right now we've got the proposal has a limit on aspect ratio, and it has a requirement to have speed limiters. And and the ongoing discussion is there something else that we could do, to make sure that the wings don't get too hot? And maybe there is, and that would be great. If there is, we'll add that to it. But not doing anything, I mean, that doesn't. If we were to just do nothing, then that's not going to stop sport class competitions from growing, and it's not going to stop wing manufacturers from continuing to make higher and higher performing wings. So the do nothing option, we're trying to take the do nothing option off the table and say, look, let's make at least incremental progress and put a definition out there that will, moderate the growth of or the increase in demanding handling of sport class wings.
Yeah, no, I understand your point in here, Bill, but help me understand this, because this somehow seems to be a bit of a complex structure to me when I look at it as a whole ecosystem. Time and again, as the evolution has taken on in the previous, let's say, 3 or 4 decades, ever since the boomerang, like 3-4 era, every single pilot or designer has been chasing speed. Then somehow, this is relatable to what Kriegel said and how Goran explained it, that we end up chasing performance and then we pull back on it. But if we look at the pattern of these major developments that have happened, be it open class or the origins of open class, which I think nobody talks about, everybody just talks about the closing of open class. But like, what led us to chasing open class in the first place? The CCC rules, which again, all the manufacturers were just going ahead and chasing, speed with certain limitations. But the priority has been speed overall until even in two-liner Cs, where the rule amendment from 3-lining to 2-lining was done to chase more speed. So deep inside, we are chasing more speed, and yet we are trying to harness those rules. It just like doesn't. It seems like we are following a very flawed structure here, and the pattern is repeating itself again and again.
I would like to just to point to something that is, the question of speed on the deep philosophical level of flying is unavoidable. We were in during the Europeans in Morzine, that was 20 years ago. There was this fantastic basically presentation for the pilots in the opening when it was the time when they made this balloon flight around the world. So the person delivering is psychologist by profession, but ballooning pilot. He said something that the speed is not important just for flying fast. The speed is important to be able to fly into wind. So now the question is how much speed, and basically how much risk with which speed. Take the example of Khrushchev. Khrushchev is placed 70 by 30. That's it. People are, if you do not know, if you're not using every day, if you're not a serious organizer, you will never realize that. But it's extremely small place. And the ability to fly upwind, it's a gift.
Yeah.
So this is also part of the equation. Same applies to cross country. Records in Brazil, wherever, downwind 1,000 kilometers sooner or later. That's fine. But not every place on the planet have this. Many benefits are coming with speed. So now the correct question is not how really to limit the speed. The question is how to have safe behavior of whatever is flying at certain speeds. Because the question with C class and development.
The safe behavior I would like to point out is that there were people of Josh Cohn level who had developed that safe, intuitive human behavior, which allowed them to handle these machines. And there are pilots today of Honorin and Maxime level which have developed that. So as Bill mentioned earlier in the show, where he said that there are pilots who go out, put in the work, and want to fly full speed all day on CCCs. So innately, there are pilots who are able to handle speed. Then why are we trying to limit speed once again?
Well, yeah. So, I was flying the open class wings back then, and I think Bill Court mentioned this as well. Back in those days, I was flying a wing. Everybody's wing blew up regularly. I mean, I would never have a task where my wing didn't blow up 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
I mean, I used to joke with people that every task was a SIV course. I didn't need to take SIV course.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like,
yeah. So yes, some people can handle it. Josh is an amazing pilot, one of the best pilots that the U.S. has ever had, and he's fantastic. And there are definitely pilots that can handle it, but there are a lot of pilots that can't handle it. And just like any sport, you can't.
So inclusivity, like you need to make it more accessible. But so it can't be the F1 where you only bring the 20 best wing handlers in the world to race. That's not a viable format.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think Goran really hit on the right point. So Luke Armont, I think you had him on at one point, but Luke right now is pushing for more stability. He thinks that he can achieve more stability by increasing speed a little bit for technical reasons that I barely understand. So I'm not going to try to explain it. But in general, people aren't pushing for more speed; they're pushing for more stability. But Goran's right. I mean, more speed is not necessarily a bad thing. It enables us to fly in places and in conditions that we wouldn't otherwise be able to fly. So I mean, really, we should be focusing on stability. I was telling somebody the other day, if an alien came and reviewed our accident report and had never seen anything about the sport, they would review all of our accident reports and they would say, well, the problem is clear. You guys need to fly a wing that doesn't collapse all the time. Every accident report says that the wings are collapsing.
Yeah.
So stability is really the thing that we should be going after.
Bring back the hang gliding days. The good old days. No, guys. I mean, I want to quickly move on to the next point before we run out of time. But these are like such insightful discussions where every single rebuttal, wherever you have to make them, is making a lot of sense, and the knowledge that is coming with the after talk. But this time has flown by. But Goran, you have been, I think, an integral part of the new pilots union, Gaggle report, and you have seen how what all is happening there. And drag noodles have been in question for quite a long time, with big opinions coming in favor and against, and a lot of them making sense at the same time, which makes it even more confusing. Very quickly, any thoughts on how this solution looks forward in time to come?
Listen, this is the question that is, I think now, especially in this pilot union, now everybody can see how difficult it is.
Yeah.
It's just coming in rows. We have four options. And then in every single post, you have comments. They are going in totally opposite direction. They are going in total conflicts, intellectual conflict, approach conflict, practical conflict, technical conflict, all sorts of it. Because we would like to find the magic stick for something that is simply not equal. So now for sure, moderation is more than needed. And as Bill explained, equalizers, whatever, are tool, but also those tools are not the God. Those tools are limited. There is a range that we can cover with these tools. World Cup put a lot of effort into this. Doesn't matter who thinks what. We went through a lot of long process of creating acceptance. First of all, acceptance. I presented the Noodles first time in Gurdon. It was in 24. In September 24, we showed them to the pilots on the briefing. And I said in that moment, I said, this is the future of Paragliding.
Wow.
But I was not really aware that we will have such a resistance, or not resistance is too heavy word, such a non-acceptance.
Drag. Such a drag.
Non-acceptance, because of course, there are very, very logical, and justified reasons why somebody should not like them or not be willing to fly with them. That's understandable. But as Bill said, something needs to be done. So we try to, World Cup propose with CIVL together, and this is going in the line of collaboration between World Cup and CIVL being basically a good thing. We propose to them, World Cup proposed to CIVL, to run every single practice day in the World Cup to be run with the
Noodles,
cubes, with the noodles. So we wanted to do it in Feltre. It was logistically complicated. We messed up. It was I can say it was a logistic problem that it was our mistake. But then in Turkey, everything was put in place. We made special registration for the day. We had 70 plus pilots that applied to fly with them willingly. We distribute them. We had a briefing. They put it on the gliders. We went on the takeoff. So it was everything ready to go on the training task. Fantastic. And then, of course, Axera is windy place. And boom, we were not able to do it because we had 30 plus kilometers of wind and finished. So now, my personal opinion is, I don't think it's a magic stick. I don't think it will solve the extremes. And you can see this, especially in the union, there are vocal people, girls, really small people that are saying, it doesn't matter what I do, I cannot reach this competitiveness. So it's now not going the noodles, it's going about the performance of the small wings. But I really believe, we need to do something about it.
Is there a second best solution possible that is being considered, or is this nothing else comes even close so far?
Well, the first thing that we proposed a couple of years ago was lightweight classes. So lightweight classes is something that the British do, the U.S. does, I think Australia does it. It's simply just another class, right? So or maybe two other classes, but the delegates don't like that. They voted that down. So that's another solution. Bruce Goldsmith has a solution called MRT. The general consensus is that kind of like makes things a little bit too complicated for people to understand what's happening, like if you're watching the event. But so that's another possible solution. And then the other possible solution is just to reinstate the ballast rule. That doesn't solve the fairness problem. In fact, that makes the fairness problem worse, but it addresses the safety problem. Civil's position is, look, we've been talking about this for more than 2 years now, more than 3 years. And in that time, we've lost some lightweight pilots out of the sport. There's been some really top, mainly female pilots that have just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have to fly with.
Such a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame. I don't want to fly with 20 kilograms of ballast in order to be competitive. And we've had pilots that have landed, and there's no way to prove this, obviously, but it seems clear that their injuries were made much worse because they had 15 kilograms of weight strapped around their bodies. And God forbid somebody with a weight vest landed in the water, they would just immediately sink. So, it just doesn't seem like the right thing to do, to just continue to do nothing. So none of the solutions are perfect, but it just really seems like the time is now to do something, to try something. And maybe we iterate, maybe we try out different solutions, but the do nothing approach of ignoring the safety risk seems really irresponsible.
Has civil office, or maybe PWCA, I don't know how hectic it is, like, have you guys seen these levels of activities before? Let's say a collective new formation of a union, which is bringing a lot of points up front for discussion. And the pilot involvement on an individual level, like the engagement, as you mentioned earlier as well in the polls, have been of unprecedented levels. So do you see somehow that this barrage of information of some sorts has been generated because of the Instagram movement?
I would like to comment on this, Bill, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
CIVL Resign movement, all this, I expect we'll speak separately on this. As you said, this level of activity. I'm not sure that people are realizing how much we are mature sport. We are not something to be rediscovered. Paragliding is fully functional, mature sport, exercised day by day. In the CIVL calendar, you have 350 plus events per year happening year by year by year by year. This is an army. This is an army of participants, organizers, people. So now, when we speak activity and when we speak, we do not need to redesign everything, because the quality is what matters. It's not the level of activity. Common sense is not needed. Everybody who runs a school or who runs a club, he knows new people are coming always and bringing experience from their own scope of activity. We should do this, we should do that, we should do this, But after 30 years of experience, I am not missing an opportunity to say everyone, we know where the problems are. Ballast is the one. Is there a solution? Very difficult. Very difficult. Is there a solution for this racing concept? Very difficult to be solved. To turn back to the racing concept and to create something like MRT. People are cautious. So it's not about the level. It's about what will come out of it and what is the quality of this discussion. Discussions on base camp never ever stopped. Never ever. This bureau is together for long time, and it's not that bombastic. But when you take a look on proposals, you will see the outcome of these discussions. There are many, many, many proposals coming year by year by year. So democratic approach, big activity, for sure, it's very healthy for the community. It's very good to have pilot union, and everybody is making a reference to the F1 drivers union, for sure. They are F1 drivers. F1 drivers, 20 in the world, which means professionals, well educated, very well supported with information, knowledge. They know exactly what they are doing, and they know exactly what is the problem. So basically, what is important for us, the feedback is not about the wow effect. The feedback is about the content. What is the feedback in the World Cup? Why we do not have such a, we never experienced before. Maybe it will come. We never experienced such a pressure or such a discussions. The topics were very hot since ever. Ballast was very hot topic in the World Cup in 2016-17. We have this situation with the ballast because of the lightweight pilots pushing World Cup for unlimited ballast in order to be competitive. So we opened the door in 2017. I can name people that were leading this.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the problem. It's not how many are participating. It's what is the content and in which direction we are going.
To me, it seems like a lot of work, like when it comes to the amount of working hours that need to be put to find viable solutions to this. Are you guys like basically understaffed to a point where the same person is having to do multiple roles, which are voluntarily paid anyways, reimbursed is maybe the right word, and that is the reason why we see two positions against one name sometimes in the hierarchy.
Yeah, I think people don't understand the level of work that's required, and people, at least the civil resign movement was really just focused on paragliding cross country. There's also paragliding accuracy, and there's hang gliding, and there's aerobatics.
Which nobody talks about like ever.
Which nobody's even talking about. Yeah, so it's much more complicated than people think, and we are volunteers. We get reimbursed for travel expenses if we go to an event, or if we go to a meeting or something like that. But otherwise, it's all volunteer. We could use more people in the bureau. Like I've been thinking about trying to add positions into the bureau. That's one of the reasons why I brought Violetta in. She's already been a great addition. So somebody to do more surveys and help us with data collection on accident reporting. One of the things that people have said in the civil resign movement is that there's no accident reporting, which is just completely untrue. There is accident reporting. You can go into civil comps, and every person who submits a competition for WPRS ranking has to submit accident reports, or they can't submit it. It won't accept it into the system. So can we do better at accident reporting? Clearly, absolutely. But Steph Malbos, he was one of the past he was the previous president of Civil. He posted something a while back about the long history of accident reporting and the fact that you're depending upon organizers and safety directors who really don't have time to do it right, and the pilots don't want to have to fill them out, and so it's not even that is not a simple problem. But to answer your question, we could use more help. That's why we put out calls to the community to say, hey, come help us make it better. Lead a committee, lead a working group, or just participate in a committee, participate in a working group.
Do you?
One of the civil resign proposals just makes me laugh. It's to reduce the number of vice presidents from 4 to 1. So there's general agreement that everybody wants civil to lead more of the discussions. That too many of the discussions go around and around, and they need somebody to step in, and it's somebody else needs to step in. It's not one of them, so they want somebody from civil to step in. So at the same time, they want more leadership in the working groups. They want to reduce the size of civil, which is just a completely absurd idea. It's a solution that not only does it not solve a problem, it makes a problem worse. So,
Goran, do you face something of similar scales in PwC, or is it much easier because it's a smaller team and you guys can manage it better?
Yes, of course, it's the same in the World Cup because Bill captured that well. You cannot blame people for not being properly informed or to act around the cliche of the corruption system in the world. For example, when you ask about the multiple functions in being focused in one person, that's me.
Yeah.
I'm. I'm.
You're a good example.
But you know why. But let's go through history. In the World Cup, that's practiced since day one. Xavier Murillo was a technical delegate, was a meet director in million events. He was general secretary of the association. You know why? because it's financially based. Everybody is asking for more professional, whatever, doesn't matter what is it. I do not understand how is the relation in between being total amateur, not be committed, not be active, not be available, and being professional. I will give you another example. Now, all these ideas about we will make a course for the mid-directors, we'll make a course for this, for sure. It's rotating in the CIVL since in our bureau for 10 years now.
Wow.
Literally. But I have a simple question. So now we're going to educate you to be a mid-director. How are you going to practice? How are you going to practice? How you become a good mid-director? Because they will give you the material to learn, or me or whoever will teach you. Yes, for sure. It's important. Education. And then practice makes good. And who will provide 20 events for you in over 2 years to be a mid-director and to practice this? So, these kind of regulations are forcing people to take if you are motivated to work in paragliding, if you are dedicated, if you are available, to have multiple roles, because like this, you are practicing, you are able to, in certain scenarios, to earn. So basically, you are becoming more professional, with more exposure, and with condensation of functions. In my case, in the World Cup, I am the president, which is in a way, it's almost honorary function, because the president has no direct obligations. And my second job is being event manager, which in the event manager is a real job. It's a job that is a proper activity. And then I'm also a photographer. So I know exactly how to do it. Let's hire someone. And in the limited budget of the World Cup, we do not have enough budget to spend on all the requests for social media for this. Then, so it piles up, and it goes further and further and further. When Ulrich Jessop left the World Cup, it was 1 week before the event in Targasson in France. And then we do not have a technical delegate in 1 week before. So then what you do? You become a technical delegate.
Of course, you have to.
So, because how are we going to handle this? So the real question is, do I want to do it? Well, I'm not stupid. I'm not crazy. Who would like to have 5 jobs, 90% voluntarily work? In the World Cup structure, the paid function is only technical delegates. The rest is helping, creating, working. So in my case, I fully understand the frustration, because the frustration is coming from the examples from the outside world. People like those are grabbing something, taking something. Taking what? What is there to be taken? This is the angle that needs to be properly assessed. My words could be challenged for sure, but I'm saying this in order to make people think, to understand. There is no endless number of jobs, there is no endless number of funds, and there is no endless number of opportunities.
I think what you have described there is a beautiful way of like the power of expression, because how you express also carries a lot of weight on what you express. I think that is what we started the show on as well. So social media has been an integral part of modern day communication in any aspect of our life, not just paragliding, just to interact with other people or to discuss or brainstorm. But at the same time, there is a small border which people can cross. Has this been an issue hard to regulate in your eyes that has eventually led to some hiccups that we have covered in the past few days?
Well, I mean, there's a social media policy that FAI has, and there's a ton of people that are in clear violation of the social media policy. So that is what it is. What I'll say is that there's 2 groups of people out there, and one group of people are trying to come up with good ideas, and ideally they're safety related, because that's really what we need to be focused on.
Like the ones in base camp.
And a lot of those people are
the ones who are already
like the ones in base camp who are working in the committees and working groups, but also some of the people in the union. I talk to people in the union, and some of the people in the union, for whatever reason, prefer that format. And we'll take good ideas from anybody, right? So if somebody's working in good faith and they're trying to come up with good solutions to improve safety, we'll take those, do it in base camp, bring it to us, some other way.
Like there is a procedure, like there is a set of way things can be done.
Yeah. And then there's another group of people out there that are just angry and are just, trying to distract people. They're putting out false information for whatever reason. They're trying to stir people up.
I can clarify on this, Bill, if you allow me to, because I'd like to add on a little bit more context to this question. You're saying that there is a standard operating procedure that is available for when somebody wants to make things happen, and communication is not hindered at all. But I think we did this in a previous talk that we had earlier before the show. Even though you come across as somebody who's very transparent, open to any questions, willing to share information unhindered, uh, it took me quite a while to get to you. And let's say uh, the amount of people or the tries would generally discourage some people at that level. And I can relate to this example in another context where it's not just FAI. Let's say I'm like designing a show with a couple of instructors where we are going to focus on how to improve safety or like the mindset at grassroots level. And we said that let's try and pick up some data to look at some patterns. So we tried finding accident and incident records in European countries from 2024. Uh, it has been super hard to get people on email, get the right people on email, and reach out to them. And in fact, my most recent denial was from Norway, where they said that we cannot share it, even if it's for educational purpose, because of GDPR. So I do understand that there are SOP regulations in place that allow procedures to happen, but the amount of effort it takes for a layman to go through those processes is kind of tedious. And I think that cannot be denied no matter what.
Well, I would say I would disagree. I mean, so in terms of you being able to get to me, you kind of got a little bit of a runaround from headquarters. So I apologize for that. But if anybody wants to be in a committee, all they have to do, and we put this out in the notice, but they just have to email civil_comps@fai.org, and that goes to Elena. Elena says, "Hey, this person wants to go into the committee." So that's literally all that is required. Is they just email them.
Yeah, no.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to hear from anybody.
What I meant to say is, Bill, that let's say not just like one bureaucratic example of reaching out to you, but let's say on the other hand, when I'm researching for the episode and I'm trying to go through general knacks of every country to gather this thing, and if I still face the hiccups because of the bureaucracy that is involved, and I go out and rant it out on social media, does that put me at risk of receiving a warning of some sorts, or some kind of a violation? Or because that's what a lot of people have been concerned in Brazil, where it was condemned.
Yeah. No, not at all. So like the situation in Brazil, was completely different. Marcella was a friend of mine, hopefully still is a friend of mine. She reached out to me and said, "Hey, Bill, can you do something about this? Can you guys look at this situation again? I really want to have the competition in Andradas." It's her local site. She's very proud of it. She was really proud of having the World Championship come there. Totally understandable. I said, "Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a look at it again." So we took a look at it again, and with CBVL and the NAC, and which is CAB, and we couldn't find a way. We said, "Okay, CBVL, can you guys organize the competition yourself? Do you have the capabilities to do that?" And the finances. It takes a lot of finances to organize these competitions. You can't just organize it. You have to have sponsors. You have to have things worked out ahead of time. And they said, "No, we'd love to do it, but we can't." Everybody, so Civil, CBVL, everybody wanted the competition to stay in Andradas.
Mm-hmm.
That was the path of least resistance. And that's clearly what we wanted to have happen. But we couldn't figure out a way to make it happen. So then Frank said he could organize the competition. We discussed that possibility. We made the decision to move it over. We ran that decision by all of the delegates. All of the delegates said, "Yeah, we wouldn't have done anything different. We understand why it's happened to be moved."
So it was a democratic.
So then after that,
it was a democratic process.
It was totally democratic. Yeah, totally democratic. And after that, Marcelo was still complaining and still putting out some claims about some corruption and this and that, and still trying to lobby pilots to be against this. And so we simply said, "Look, Marcella, we heard you. Totally get your concerns. Understand why you wanted it to stay in Andradas, but it's not going to. It can't. And so it's time to disagree and commit." There's a concept inside most companies. Yeah. Everybody's free to disagree, but eventually a decision has to get made. And if you're part of the organization, in this case, part of Civil, you got to commit. And she didn't want to commit. So we basically just said, if you want to fly in the World Championship, it's going to be in Castello. So you have to accept that.
I think with the whole warning question, or like the topic from previous show, I think that was also on your list, which was stated, was that it had its origins back in the day when some sort of mockery was made out of a day where a task was being called off, and some meme was posted. And I think the suspicion was that everybody who liked that meme was sent a letter of reprimand or something, that you're not allowed to participate, or like whatever, like this breaches the code of conduct or whatever.
Yeah, no. That was at the World Championship in Argentina.
So like,
and once again,
I'll let you complete. Let me just finish it up. And I think how I'm relating it to that one is that the current criticism of the official structures has been loud and vocal and a bit professionally driven, with the way the posts are graphically designed, or they are the outreach or the engagement that it gets. So is this grounds for evaluation on same code of conduct violation that was done back in the day when this whole law had to be brought in place?
The code of conduct simply says that you have to be respectful, and you can't threaten. You have to be respectful. You can't bring the institution into disrepute if you're making statements, where it could be bringing the FAI into disrepute. So someone just saying, respectfully. So let's go back to the situation in Argentina. So the situation in Argentina, there was a level 3 call, and made by one of the team leaders, and some people were mocking them and mocking the organization over that. They weren't just respectfully saying, "Hey, I don't really think that was the right decision. I would like for us to reevaluate that and maybe understand if that really was the right decision." Mm-hmm. That's totally fine. Anybody is able to do that. The organization is willing to hear that. But mocking the organizers or other team leaders is getting to be like really common. Mm. And you have to understand that we struggle to find organizers for these competitions. We rarely have. 89% of the Cat 1 competitions in paragliding cross country only have one bid. And so if you're imagine you're an organizer and you're doing your best, and it looks like the weather's going to be terrible all day. And so,
the criticism is
like
behind it is disrespectful. I understand what you mean.
Yeah, you cancel a task, and then you get people like putting, mocking and clever. Oh, you guys are all idiots. You don't even know what you're doing. Blah 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 blah. That might get you a warning, because you're being disrespectful. You're not just making a well-reasoned request that maybe we change the criteria for canceling a day or whatever. You're being an asshole, and we need fewer assholes and more respectful people.
I think to add on to that, some people said that the gray area, if any, in the definition of that rule, I'm forgetting the page number and the section, I think it's section 9, or I'm not sure, is that it could be used to suppress free speech, which was the suspicion in the Marcella's case, where it said that it was discouraged from posting freedom of expression online at a point.
Marcella spoke more than almost anybody. I think people would have a hard time saying Marcella was not free to speak. So there was plenty of speech going on, but at some point the decision was made, and it wasn't going to get changed. And continuing to lobby against the CIVL and make accusations against CIVL wasn't going to change things. So
just to go to the root of the question, this topic of changing of the venue, even when we were preparing for this meeting, that was one of your questions. So I think it's important something to be delivered as a global information. Majority of pilots, or some of them, we are running companies, or we are working for someone. You are in some work relation. What CIVL is doing with the organizers, it's not much different. A part of all these processes that we are speaking, this is ending up with certain amount of entry fees transferred to someone, which is creating a business relation. And in business relation, in general, the rules are very simple. Number one rule is trust. So how you protect yourself as an organization, and then your clients in this situation pilots from organizers that from certain reasons are seen as unloyal partners. Nobody, people are dreaming. People are dreaming because they're positioning themselves as end users that will show up somewhere, and how that reflects to me, for the management, for us, and in this, it's the same in the World Cup. It's a little bit more complicated because if you do not have trust, then you have 10 times bigger problem. What is the guarantee that we will have meet director? What is the guarantee that you show up and there is no one? What you gonna do? What do you think? You're gonna make you're gonna make a
it's a hopeless situation.
And that will yes. So now I can say it. That was the situation in Brazil. We woke up one morning without meet director, without staff, without, and it's documented. All of this is documented. It was circulated around. The media director was clearly saying, I am not coming there. We were asked to provide media director. So can you imagine? So I'm the organizer and I'm asking CIVL, can you find someone for me? And with a list of requests, what kind of media director we need? So these kind of relations are creating untrust that spread to the CIVL, to the local federation, to some other people being involved. And suddenly we are ending up with a situation when you do not have a solid basis. I don't want to mention the financial implications that are not cleared up even today. So there's still a lot of financial questions pending related to the original destination of the, not for us, but for FAI, for the local national club. So when you put all of this, the reason why we moved is one simple sentence. We faced unserious organizer. It's not us. It's important to understand, Bill can elaborate more in detail if needed. There is organizer agreement. That organizer agreement is made with the National Aero Club of the country. So when the National Aero Club of the country, in this case CIVL, is not willing to support their own organizer, because it's a national event, the nation is the country is behind the bid. So what you're going to do if you are running an international organization? You will tell who cares? And that guys, CIVL, basically those guys are the partner of FAI and CIVL. So your local partner is telling you, I'm not supporting this. And what you do? And then you listen to the pilots that have this. I understand that fully. I fully understand that. For sure, I would like to fly every single major event in Khrushchev when I'm at home. Of course. But can you imagine you come to Khrushchev and suddenly I'm on holidays? Theoretically. So nobody is taking these details into the account. But the real reasons, these stories, this is that. You need to clarify what.
Do you guys think that, this whole flow of information that has come in after the incident could have been handled in a better way, or the way, all I'm wondering is the civil resign and the criticism of the organization. Could that have been done in a better manner in your eyes?
Yeah. I mean, the person who started CIVL Resign is a delegate. That he could have made proposals within the structure. He and I talked about it quite a bit. He doesn't feel like that would have accomplished anything. He's kind of lost trust in CIVL. He made a post saying essentially he doesn't consider himself CIVL anymore. And so he's trying to do it a different way. So in the early discussions with Julian, I told him some of the ideas I thought he had were good. And we've already moved forward on some of those ideas. So I don't disagree with all of the ideas that have been, bandied about. I disagree with the way the process happened. I disagree with using misrepresentations and salacious things like backroom deals and claims of unethical behavior, and saying that it was CIVL's fault that there was a fatality at a competition. I object to using those as a way to get people stirred up about the ideas. In terms of the actual content, absolutely no problem with any of the things that they're talking about being discussed democratically within the commissions, within the committees, within the working groups. Absolutely. Yeah.
Guys, before I close on for the day, because we are way over time, but so far the discussions have been beyond enrichful, with information, with some very valid points being made. So I didn't want to disrupt our thought process, but we often speak about, the future. How does the future look in our sport? And, we're always excited about what's incoming. And I don't want to spend too much time on this point. before closing, but like 2018 Asian Games was kind of a landmark moment where our sport was given a chance at a event of that scale and was kind of possibility to have a brighter future. Do you guys? I don't know if you guys were at helm at that time, or how the structures look, but could could it have been done in a better way? And is there a similar chance upcoming if we do things right in a certain way?
I'll tell you what, I wasn't around then, so I don't know about that particular Asian Games, but I know that FAI is always looking for opportunities to have multi-sport events, and to have World Games events and things like that. I know there's discussions about one coming up in the next couple of years, so that's something that FAI really pushes. Goran, maybe I don't know if you were around then and know anything about that particular event.
For that particular event, I know a few things, but I was not following this because it was out of my scope of interest. So Stefan Malbos, the leadership, real leadership, followed that. But if the question is about the future and can we do better, of course that we can do better. It's not nuclear science. How the other federation associations are doing better? How? In entire scope of paragliding administration, we have 2 half employees. One in the World Cup and another one in CIVL. So these people that should be the backbone of everything, the structure, communication. So how you expect that we will be as seriously respected, accepted when we do not have professionals inside? Not professionals by feeling, professionals by the amount of work put into achieving goals. That's the question. And if whatever we are blaming, it's very simple to ask ourselves, who should do this? In which frame, with which amount of working hours, with which amount of commitment, and how that will work? If we do not have question, we'll be like this. This is like a little in kind of definition. It's like community moving towards something with kind of mutual understanding and balancing and something like this. Leadership cannot work like this. Leadership leads, and then of course, in democratic way, they are chosen or dismissed and this and that. But leadership leads towards certain goal permanently, which means this setup, the next setup, the third setup, the fifth setup of people being hired, engaged into the serious approach of to achieve goals. This is not happening. It's simply not happening. After 35 years, we are discussing some kind of structure, and nobody's saying, let's become truly professional with a structure that have people pulling whatever around a structured job description, payment, social security, and everything. If we are not able to achieve such a leadership, we should not speak about the future. Future will be just variation of what we have now. Better, maybe, of course. Different people, maybe. But the content will not move much forward.
So I don't disagree with anything Goran said, but one thing that came out of the last FAI General Conference, so there's quite a bit of interest in online covering of various sports. Gliding is a little bit ahead. So technology is getting to the point where, in gliders anyway, they've got cameras, within the cockpit, and they've got people following the race. And so, it makes it more accessible to a wider audience. And so it's getting to the point where we might be able to start doing some of those things in paragliding. And really the solution is to bring more money into the sport. Like right now, there's just not a lot of money in the sport. And like Goran was saying, if we want to really up level it, we're going to have to hire employees and have equipment to do these broadcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is some things that we're going to try to do cross air sport to try to make some of these technologies available. And so maybe we can do some things to make the sport more accessible to a wider audience and maybe attract some sponsors. So there's some hope for that.
Do you guys see Red Bull doing it up to a certain level of success with their new format and showing how it can be done on a commercial scale?
Red Bull was a sponsor for a while and then they backed out. So I don't know how much. I mean, Red Bull's very, they're going to do it if it has mass appeal. So basically, we would need to get to the mass appeal point, I think, before Red Bull would be interested in engaging again.
I was saying to reach bigger appeal because hike and fly is another one of the disciplines that is coming up. But of course, I think solutions will be found as time progresses. But I feel like we have kind of answered everything that we planned out to. Unless, Bill, do you have something more pending on your list that needs to be touched upon?
No, I just wanted to say that I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you, helping get some more clearer picture out there. I know it's a lot of work, and I appreciate the effort you put into it. I do want to say that I'm fairly positive, aside from all the annoyance of dealing with all the social media dumpster fire. I'm actually pretty excited about a lot of the things we've got going on. I'm excited about sport class. We've got a working group of doctors and medical and rescue people who are super excited about putting together an updated standards for what kind of medical equipment do we need to have on site, and what should the procedures be for deploying those resources and all that. So that's pretty exciting. So we've already decided to eliminate adding new goal fields. Seems like a small thing, but like Goran was saying, that was one of the contributing factors that day. Might not have made the difference, but maybe it would have. So there's a lot of really good stuff, and there's a renewed interest in the committees and working groups. So, again, I would just encourage anybody who wants to participate to reach out, civilcomps at fai.org, civil_comps, or to me, or to Goran, or anybody that they know on the bureau, or their delegate.
Yeah.
And we would love to have their contributions.
I think most importantly, what I really would like to point out, not just to both of you, but to the audiences as well, is that as long as we have people at the top who are willing to take questions as transparently as you guys do, I don't think there should be anything to worry about, because I think it was important generally in the paragliding community that information like this should be unfiltered, come out as unfiltered as possible. I think we have managed to do that task today. So thank you guys. It's been an honor.
Glad to do it.